Hi, I'm Uncle Awesome, and this is the first time I bought a new game for an old computer. And this really gave me some strong feelings that I just did not anticipate. When I first saw the trailer, I was blown away. It has such smooth animations, a high frame rate, and even a story mode with cutscenes. I didn't think the ZX Spectrum was capable of something like this, so I just had to buy the game and also the computer. So the game comes in this very beautiful box, very simplistic design, but very inviting. It also has a nice decoration on the side here, so it looks good on a shelf. And here is a little note. Thank you for buying our products. Well, thank you for making such a great game. Here's a backup CD with some of the games and tape and disk images, booklet, PDF, instructions. Here is a music CD. And here is the cassette. And what a nice cassette in this green cover. And even the cassette has text on it. And I think the strong feelings comes from that this is a new product for an old computer, so it's like the past is still here. I don't know, but I've been spending 15 or 30 minutes just looking at the contents here. So I just really love this experience of having a new game for an old computer. So here is the manual, and you can read about how to play the game. You can read about the plot or the gameplay. If there is one thing I would change, it is that you can see these pictures through this window. And this kind of reminds me of something I could do myself, printing it out on my own printer and such. I think it would be nicer if the pictures would be on the cardboard itself, because this looks a bit more like homemade. But it's okay, it's nice. The game also came with this nice poster. I think I'm going to put this in a frame. Before I can test the game, I need to change this plug here to this type, and also make a joystick adapter. But first, let's have a look inside this machine. At least it looks quite fine, no leaking capacitors. And here you can see the Zilog Z80 CPU. Here is 128 kilobytes of RAM. And here is the sound chip. I think sound chips are very interesting, so I try to learn how the sound chip in this Spectrum works, and also how it differs from the SID chip. Now, first let me draw a diagram here. This is the amplitude, or the voltage, or the volume up here, and here is time passing. The SID chip can create something like a sawtooth or a triangle waveform. So if you measure the signal on an oscilloscope, then you will have the sawtooth or triangle like this. The Spectrum cannot produce these type of waveforms. It can only produce square waves like this. So this is volume or voltage, and it starts with 0 voltage, then suddenly it goes up to a specific voltage. It keeps the same voltage over time, and then it stops. So the Spectrum has 3 channels, and it can produce 1 square wave for each channel, or noise. The Spectrum also has something called hardware envelopes. It can tell something about how the volume is changing over time, and it can have the shape of a sawtooth or a triangle. And this can affect the square waves. So I thought that then you can just tell the square wave to not have the volume suddenly increase to the maximum, but rather move in this pattern here, or this shape here instead, and then have a sawtooth. But I was mistaken. You can't do that, but you can have, let's say, several square waves and have them in this sort of pattern, like a sawtooth. Now, if you have a low frequency, then it's going to sound like a square wave that goes up in volume and then stops. But if you increase the frequency, then it's going to look something like this. So it's going to sound like something in between a square wave and a sawtooth. But from what I've read on Facebook, it might also be possible to turn off the square wave generator, turn that off, then only use the hardware envelope, and then you get this hardware envelope only producing the sound. Then you do get actually a sawtooth waveform, but the hardware envelopes are very limited. You can't change it and such. And by the way, when you do turn off the square wave generator and only use the hardware envelope to create the shape, the sound, you have no volume control at all. Just max volume. So most people are using software envelopes instead. With software envelopes, you're using the CPU to create your own shapes. Something that is a bit cool is that with software envelopes, you are also able to produce or to play samples, audio and speech. But of course the quality is not going to be great. So this spectrum can only produce square waves or noise on 3 different channels, and it can use hardware or software envelopes to modify the shape. So there is a lot more I could say about the sound chip in this spectrum, and also the difference between this sound chip and the SID chip, but I think this was the most interesting. Basically, the SID chip is just more advanced. So I'm in the process of changing the plug here, and you can see it has a fuse. I'm not going to use the fuse. And also, it's strange, the ground here is just not connected. And it's done. Now I need to make the joystick adapter. Well, this does not fit, because this edge here goes into this thing here. So I need to bend this back or something. Yes. Okay, let's see. Yes. Okay, let's see if this will work. This doesn't look right. Where's the reset button? Oh, it works! I just need to make it a bit more cozy with fire in the fireplace. And a cup of coffee. Loading is complete. Press any key. I think I need to select 2 Sinclair since I use an adapter. Yeah. He's so pretty, don't you think? No! I really want to win now because of the story, and I did win! So I have played quite a while now, and it's a fun game. The story also gives you extra motivation, but the keyboard would be better to use, I think, because the joystick makes it more difficult to make the rapid movements you want, like braking and turning, and I feel like it's a bit awkward. So I think it's going to be easier using the keyboard. We will be back after this commercial break.
Sinclair's new ZX Spectrum Action Pack has a powerful 128K home computer, a joystick, 6 very different games, and a deadly accurate light gun. That'll keep those droids on the run. The new Sinclair Action Pack puts the zap back into computers.
And we're back. The game here, it's a lot of fun. It has a nice box, nice design, comes with the manual, and the CDs had the digital formats of the manual, instructions and some music. It also came with the music CD. The gameplay is quite fun and the drive mechanics has some depth to it, but it was a bit too difficult for me, as at least at stage 5 I tried to switch from the joystick to the keyboard, but it bugged out. Eventually I couldn't turn left anymore on the keyboard. So there is some sort of a bug there. The story seems simple, but also effective at giving me extra motivation to complete the race. So overall, this is a really cool game. Absolutely recommend you to buy this game and support these developers. Thank you for watching.